Imagine waking up tomorrow morning in the middle of July and feeling a gentle coolness in your bedroom. No air conditioning running, no noisy fan, just silence and a nearly perfect temperature. Now, imagine receiving your energy bill at the end of the month and seeing a number that looks like a typo. Not half, not a third, but up to 77% lower than what you pay today. Sounds like a fairy tale? A marketing trick? Just another video with exaggerated promises on the internet? It's not. What I'm about to tell you has existed for nearly 10,000 years. Civilizations that had no electricity, no trained engineers, none of the technologies we consider essential today already knew this. They built houses that stayed cool in scorching summers and warm in freezing winters, with no energy costs, no sophisticated equipment. And the most disturbing part? This knowledge was not lost, it was ignored, conveniently swept under the rug of modern regulations, building codes, and the interests of corporations that profit from the very problem it solves. The truth is right under your feet, literally. Everything starts with something that seems too simple to work, an earthen wall. We're not talking about an improvised mud hut. We're talking about an Adobe or rammed earth wall, approximately 30 centimeters thick, the equivalent of 12 inches. A wall built from clay, sand, straw, and water, materials that exist in virtually every corner of the planet. This wall has a property that no polyurethane foam, no fiberglass, and no polystyrene panel can replicate in the same way. It thinks for your home. Not literally, of course, but it works with an intelligence that seems intentional. During a hot summer day, while the sun beats down on the outside of the wall, the interior of your house remains cool. The wall is absorbing that heat, storing it slowly in its enormous mass. It doesn't let the heat pass through all at once. It delays it, distributes it, cushions it. At night, when the outside temperature drops and you need a bit of warmth, the wall begins to slowly release the heat it stored during the day. Your home becomes naturally comfortable without you needing to switch on any heater. In winter, the process reverses. The afternoon sun hits the wall absorbs that heat. When night comes and the cold intensifies outside, the wall releases its stored heat into the interior, keeping the internal temperature stable while the thermometer plunges on the other side. It's like having a large thermal energy bank built into your walls, a bank that charges and discharges automatically every single day at zero cost. Millions of people around the world still live this way. In Morocco, in Mexico, in Yemen, in Iran, in the American Southwest, entire communities that pay a fraction of what you pay in energy because their homes were built on this ancient principle. And they pay up to 77% less on their energy bills. Not by luck, not by chance, by physics. You might ask me, but is this scientific? Has it been tested? Tested? This system has passed the most rigorous test in existence, 10,000 years of human history. Let's start in Çatalhöyük, in Anatolia, in the territory that is modern-day Turkey. Around 7500 BC, it was one of the largest cities in the world, with up to 10,000 inhabitants living in adobe houses, bricks molded from clay and dried in the sun. There was no artificial source of heating or cooling beyond cooking fires. Yet archaeologists and researchers confirm that those structures provided a remarkably stable internal microclimate throughout the year, in a region that faces scorching summers and cold winters. Those people didn't survive in spite of their houses. They thrived because of them. Fast forward a few centuries to the 13th century Spain. The Alhambra Palace in Granada is one of the most famous buildings in medieval Islamic architecture. Its rammed earth walls, built from a compacted mixture of earth, lime, and stones, are up to 1.5 meters thick in some sections. Today, centuries later, visitors still report the surprising sensation of entering the palace on a hot August day and immediately feeling a coolness with no modern climate control system in sight. While modern concrete and steel constructions need renovations in 30 or 40 years, the Alhambra has been standing for over 700 years. In Yemen, the rammed earth towers of Shibam, called the Manhattan of the desert, reach up to 16 stories and are more than 500 years old. They withstand the extreme climate of the Arabian desert, 40 degrees by day and cold nights, maintaining a habitable internal environment. No air conditioning, no central heating. In Iran, the cities of Yazd and Kashan preserve Adobe constructions that function as natural refrigerators. Wind towers called badgirs capture breezes and channel them into interior spaces that remain naturally cool thanks to the thermal mass of the walls. In New Mexico, the ancient Pueblo villages of Native American peoples are another striking example. Adobe constructions between 700 and 1,000 years old that are still inhabited today, operating with thermal efficiency that modern architects struggle to replicate with cutting-edge technology. These are not isolated anecdotes. They are historical records of a technology applied across every inhabited continent in completely different climates by cultures that had no contact with one another. The conclusion is inescapable. The principle works. It always has worked, and it works better and longer than most of the solutions sold to us as modern and efficient. Now let's talk science. Not the science of laboratories funded by construction companies, but the physics that governs the universe. There is a concept called heat capacity, which is the amount of energy a material can store in the form of heat. The higher the heat capacity of a material, the more energy it can absorb without its temperature rising significantly. Adobe, the mixture of clay and straw used in these walls, has an extraordinarily high heat capacity. An Adobe wall 30 centimeters thick can store hundreds of times more thermal energy than the same thickness of fiberglass insulation. But the difference isn't just in quantity, it's in behavior. Fiberglass insulation works as a static barrier. It resists the passage of heat, trying to keep what's inside separate from what's outside. It's efficient when the temperature difference between the interior and the exterior is constant, but in real life, that difference changes constantly. The thermal mass wall works in a completely different way. It doesn't block heat, it absorbs it, stores it, and releases it with a delay calculated by physics. This delay is called thermal lag. In a well-built Adobe wall 30 centimeters thick, the thermal lag can be 8 to 12 hours. This means the heat that strikes the outer face of the wall at noon will only appear inside your house at midnight, but by the early hours of the morning, it is cooled outside, and the heat that reached the interior flows back out again. It's a perfect cycle. It's thermodynamics working for you for free, asking nothing in return except that you build with the right material. To understand the scale of the difference, consider the numbers. Water, which everyone knows as an excellent heat reservoir, has a heat capacity of approximately 4,186 joules per kilogram degrees Celsius. Moist clay sits around 1,380 joules. Common fiberglass, less than 840. And density matters enormously. An Adobe wall 30 centimeters thick can weigh hundreds of kilograms per square meter, while a layer of insulation weighs a fraction of that. The practical result? The earthen wall does the work of a heating and cooling system passively. Studies conducted by independent researchers show that well-built homes with adequate thermal mass can maintain an internal temperature between 18 and 24 degrees Celsius, even when the outside temperature swings from 5 to 40 degrees throughout the day, with no active mechanical system. That's not magic, it's basic physics that was forgotten or suppressed in the modern world. Here is the part that will make you question everything you know about how homes are built today. Modern building codes have a central concept for evaluating the energy efficiency of a wall, the R value. The R value measures a material's resistance to heat flow under static conditions in a laboratory with constant temperature on both sides, no variation, no day-night cycle, none of the dynamic behavior that happens in real life. In that laboratory test, fiberglass performs very well. A 10-centimeter layer can have an R value of 3 or 4. An Adobe wall 30 centimeters thick? Maybe R value 1.5 or R value 2. On paper, it looks like fiberglass is twice as efficient. But that test does not measure the behavior that actually matters day to day, the ability to absorb, store, and release heat over time. The R value is blind to heat capacity, to thermal lag, to everything that makes thermal mass so powerful in practice. It's like having a marathon athlete evaluated only by their sprint speed. You will draw completely wrong conclusions. The result is that modern building codes, by fixating on the R value as the primary metric, effectively make Adobe and rammed earth construction illegal or unviable in much of the developed world. Not because these buildings fail, not because they are unsafe, but because they don't fit the chosen metric. And who chose that metric? Who benefits from it? The construction materials industry, which earns billions of dollars selling fiberglass insulation, expanded polyurethane, and EPS panels. The heating and cooling industry, which earns trillions installing and maintaining the systems you need to buy, precisely because your house doesn't function thermally on its own. And the energy companies, which depend on you consuming electricity or gas to keep your home at a livable temperature. Let's be direct. There is a massive economic ecosystem that depends on the inefficiency of your home. Every time you pay a high electricity bill, every time you change the air conditioning filter, every time you buy a new appliance to heat or cool a room, you are feeding that ecosystem. And that ecosystem has a very strong interest in making sure you never discover that an alternative exists, one that works without them. I'm not saying there is a conspiracy of people sitting in dark rooms deciding to hide the truth from the public. The reality is more subtle and in some ways more disturbing. It is a system of incentives that, over decades, has been steering research, regulation, and construction practices toward paths that favor products and services that can be sold and maintained, at the expense of passive solutions that, once built, don't need to buy anything from anyone. Energy efficiency regulation exists with the genuine intention of reducing consumption, but when the metric chosen to measure efficiency systematically ignores the dynamic behavior of thermal mass, the practical result is that the most efficient constructions in human history are left out of the approval tables. Researchers such as Australian architect Paul Downton, a specialist in eco-cities, and scholars from institutions like Crater in France and the Earth Architecture program at Cal Earth in California have extensively documented this discrepancy. They show how the real-world performance of earthen buildings consistently exceeds what R-value-based models predict. But these studies rarely reach the hands of the engineers who approve projects, the builders who follow the standards, and the home buyers who simply trust that the existing rules were made to protect them. And so the ancient knowledge continues to live on the margins, in alternative communities, in independent researchers, in countries where building standards are more flexible or simply non-existent. Meanwhile, the developed world keeps building concrete and drywall boxes that need air conditioning to be habitable in summer and central heating in winter. You made it here. You know the knowledge exists, you know it works, and you know there is a powerful ecosystem that depends on you not using it. Now the question that remains is simple. Do they really want you to save money? Think about the last time a major energy company ran a campaign to teach you how to consume less. Think about the last time a construction materials manufacturer funded research that concluded its product was unnecessary. Think about the last time the building regulatory bodies revised their metrics to include the dynamic behavior of thermal mass. The answer is almost never, because the prevailing business model was not built to help you spend less. It was built to make you spend more, continuously and perpetually. This doesn't have to be your reality. There are communities today being built with natural building techniques, Adobe and rammed earth. There are architects, engineers, and researchers dedicated to making these techniques accessible, safe, and properly regulated. There are legal movements to revise building codes and include dynamic performance metrics that recognize the real efficiency of thermal mass. You can be part of that movement. Share this content, not because I'm asking, but because the information you just received can transform the financial life of someone you know. A family member planning to build their own home, a friend struggling with absurd electricity bills, an entire community that could free itself from energy dependence with the right knowledge. The forbidden wall is not forbidden because it is dangerous. It is forbidden because it is too efficient for those who need you to remain dependent. The answer has been under your feet all along. Now you know it. And now, what are you going to do with that knowledge?